The portrait of the typical Canadian family is changing. New data from the 2011 census shows more Canadians are foregoing a traditional marriage in favor of a common law relationship.
In fact, the number of common law partnerships increased by almost 14% between 2006 and 2011, while the number of married couples declined by nearly 133,000 over the past decade. And for the first time, Stats Canada says there are more people living alone in Canada than there are couples with children. It's very sad.
Joining us in Toronto, we have Square Off's resident social commentator, Valerie Gibson, and here in studio, social worker Gary Direnfeld. Gary, why do you think more people are saying, I don't, or I won't, instead of I do?
Right. Well, those numbers also coincide with the folks who practice their faith. As we see this decline in faith-based practice, we're also seeing a decline in couples wanting to engage in marriage. So it's striking the degree to which these things correlate. It may be that as we move away from religion, we're just not looking to sanctify this marriage in the eyes of one's God or one's faith.
Valerie, what do you think of these numbers? In particular, what do you think of this idea that there's now a lot of people living by themselves?
Well, I think that is true, and I've been trying to tell people that in marketing, for instance, for many years. This is a huge growing population, the single population, living alone, without children, on their own. And I hate that in one of the major newspapers this morning, we were called lonelies, and we are
Lonelies?
not. Yes, we're not. We're living alone, but that's it. We enjoy it, a lot of us. But I think that's going to increase as the population ages. There's no question. A lot of people are choosing to live alone, even though they have relationships. But I think the whole relationship thing is changing, not just because of religion, but because of acceptance of alternative relationships. I think people actually are accepting all kinds. They're still sort of sticky with the older woman, younger man marriage, of course, unfortunately. But I think that is definitely happening. I feel that this has always been there. These relationships have always been there, but now they're more acceptable. So people are enjoying them and coming out, if you like, with them. And that's showing up more now in census.
Gary, for many generations, the reason to get married was to start a family. The number of childless couples, though, it's alarming how many more childless couples there seem to be these days. Do you think young couples are more selfish, more self-centered, maybe too economically insecure to have their own children?
No, I don't think they're too selfish. A lot of folks are childless by choice, the result of any number of different factors, including, hey, I had a terrible upbringing myself. I don't feel equipped to parent. I don't think I have the skills. It could be an economic decision. How do couples who may be dual income at $10 an hour each, what do you do with the children? That's an expense in and of itself, so they may worry about bringing children in economically. Some folks are looking at the state of the world today, and they worry about bringing children into a world that they see as not conducive to sustaining life. So, and then, hey, let's face it, a lot of people just enjoy their careers and they're having fun, and they're either postponing childbirth,
yes,
or they're saying, I don't mind being childless.
Or I don't mind being an uncle or an aunt. I'm good with that. I'm an uncle or an aunt once in a while.
What the census gives us is the great diversity of the face of the family today. And it's showing us that we can make a whole host of changes that weren't as available to us 10, 20, 15, 30 years ago.
Valerie, this is the real sort of wave of change in terms of the relationships and of more single adults that don't get married, aren't even in a relationship necessarily, and don't have kids. What's the price that to pay for being single that we don't know yet?
I think it will be the aging process. I think at the moment, the sort of prognosis, if you like, for age is going to be 90 or 100. I think that therefore that people are not going to be married for that length of time. So there's going to be far, far more marriages. However, that more older people are getting single at a late time. They are having relationships, but they choose not to marry or even live with each other. So they do enjoy that. But there will come a time when perhaps a younger woman won't want to look after an older man when he gets sick, and vice versa. So that can be a problem when they get very elderly. Then perhaps that might be a difficulty.
Yeah, if you don't have children, you don't create a family.
Yes.
Then who do you turn to?
Well, that's perhaps a problem and perhaps not. But I think what's been overlooked here is that most single people, especially women, have vast groups of friends and supporters, if you like, within their framework of their social life. I think that's changed, that women aren't sitting there eating chocolates with a cat and hoping, somebody knocks on the door every so often. It's not like that anymore. They're out there traveling, opening businesses, doing all sorts of wonderful things, very active, very healthy, a lot of them. And I think that being alone is certainly a choice now. It never used to be. It used to be, oh dear, I'm going to be single and left on the shelf. No longer. Women particularly are choosing to be single. I think that may be a problem when you get very ill, if you're very elderly. But, there are obviously avenues now, and they're going to have to improve that as the population ages. And I think that is a huge area that they haven't looked at properly yet.
Okay, and Gary, I want to ask you, though, of single friends that I know in their 40s, they don't know how to get a date. They don't know how to meet someone. It is really difficult. So how much of this is simply about there not being a mechanism to, nobody knows who's supposed to ask who out. When you're older, you don't go to clubs, you're not, you just have the same social, and I know people that are terrified, Mark just yelled, online, I heard that, Mark, but are terrified of online. So part of it is just, how do they get these dates? How do they meet someone?
But it's true. The number of folks meeting online today is exponentially. But beyond that, get yourself involved in your community. Meet by almost accident, if not design. Get involved in your community, do volunteer activities, go to have your hobbies, have your clubs, have your extracurricular activities. It's through socializing generally with folks with similar likes that we find somebody who may be our partner.
Val, for the first time in 2011, StatsCan also measured the number of step families in the country, and the census found that 1 in 10 children lives in some sort of reconstituted arrangement. Do you think these kids are doing as well as their peers that may have come from a traditional house with mom and dad and sisters and brothers?
I think they are. It all depends, obviously, on the parents, doesn't it? But I think it is tough for parents to blend families. I don't think that that's an easy route at all, and I really wouldn't want to do it myself, because blending all these personalities, it could be you have 3, he has 4, all these personalities into one family unit is most difficult at a certain stage after they're babies and so on. And I think blending families can put a real stress on a relationship between two people trying to cope. And I think that that is the way of life ahead, because again, a lot of people are meeting each other later in life, so then they have more children or older children or whatever. This is all a process, isn't it, of the aging.
Okay, and Gary, we have about 20 seconds. What do you think? Are these kids doing well that are in the blended families?
Some are doing well, and some are surfacing with greater mental health issues, depression, anxiety. They have a foot in 2 camps, and unless the parents bring those camps close together, these kids are doing the splits.
Gary Direnfeld, Valerie Gibson, thanks so much for your social commentary today. I appreciate your time as always.
Take care.